Good morning, everybody. In my company, we have a policy. If you come to my headquarters, they won't say "Good morning, welcome to Peregrine" or "Welcome to Tenon." They're going to say "Jai Hind, welcome to Peregrine." So, Jai Hind to all of you. Uh, Dr. Batra, I think he's outside. So, Dr. Batra, Professor Gale, Kumar Vikram Singh ji has not yet arrived, but he's the next speaker. Brigadier Oberoi, our Vice Chairman, Harshvardhan ji, and Rajiv ji, all the wonderful security professional from various walks of life, whether we are on this side of the table or that side of the table. My greetings to all of you at this wonderful August gathering, which I have the privilege of addressing this morning. By the way, Professor Gill, you have two more connects with India. One is your name. Gill is a very popular name in a part of India, although they are a little larger and they typically wear a turban. And of course, if you're in India, you don't have to worry about business cards. You can get them printed in a couple of hours, unlike UK. So good morning, everybody. And thank you very much, Business World, for giving me this opportunity of speaking here. Shilpa, you definitely need a big vote of thanks because I've never seen somebody so efficiently following up and getting things done so efficiently. So thank you very much. I must compliment Professor Gill for this wonderful event that he has incubated and built up into what it is today across 29 countries. I was not aware of the 29 countries. I, of course, knew of the Outstanding Security Professional Award, but I did not know it was so big. And it's a great idea that next year winners from here will compete against the global winners. So we will see how good or bad we are in comparison to our colleagues across the world. The subject on which I am speaking is a subject which is very close to my heart. This is probably the fourth time that I'm speaking on the same subject, but I'm really surprised because a few months back in Udaipur at a ASIS event, I spoke on the same subject and I was updating my notes and I realized how much has changed in the last 6 months. So this is a subject which is constantly evolving. It's very close to my heart because it is the need of the hour. You don't have a choice. You have to do it. No government of the world, in anywhere, in any part of the world, has enough resources to spend money on securing everybody. There has to be a partnership between private security companies and the government, something on the lines of public-private partnership. You don't have a choice. And if you really want to bring them together, for us in India, we have a great advantage. This model has been tried and tested in various countries already. So we have an advantage of picking up the best practices and using them. Very interestingly, when I travel in underground in London, I find that the metro in Delhi is much better. When I use telecom in India in comparison to any of the countries in the developed world, I realize we have a much better system. Why is that? Not because we were better than everybody else. It is because we have the latest ones. We just built our metro. We just got 5G. We are a little ahead of the curve. Similarly, on this subject also, we have this advantage which we should use. We should be ahead of the curve. This is a great advantage by picking up best practices. By the way, as I said, it's a globally accepted thing. It's not something that you and I will be inventing or government of India will be inventing. It's been done everywhere. It's not it's not a very grand idea. It's something we have to do. It's a non-negotiable thing. We are having a wonderful conference. We are talking about it. And like a very famous guy called Scott Fitzgerald said, conferences like this have never given birth to a great idea. But a lot of stupid ideas have died in conferences like this. So if it is a stupid idea, please let it die. But if you feel there is value in it, think about it, use it. And all of us will have to speak together to make it happen. We'll have to think in the same direction. And like I said, it's win-win. The private security industry wins and the government wins. It's something that's of mutual benefit on both sides. I don't want to really deliver a talk. I'm just getting you aware of what you already know. Nothing that I'm saying today is new to you. You've all heard about it. I'm just putting it together in a package. Why I feel I should put it together in a package? Because I feel my company is ideally placed to do it. So we are doing it. And I can't do it alone. Like Anuragji said, there is so much of work to be done. There are so many opportunities. Unless we all do it together, I am not going to succeed. So I'm actually asking all agencies, all security companies, all stakeholders, all clients to think in the same manner. Just to give you a little brief, we do a lot of business. We started as a security company. We set up a facility management company. You just saw we set up a technology company called Soteria. We have a presence in a few countries, United Kingdom, Asia, Africa. We have a fairly large manpower base across many countries. We have now launched a company for ground handling at airports, so that's a very, very different business. And something away from what we normally do, we also have a aviation training company. I think we are now the largest in Asia. So we have 6 airports, and which we actually offer to our clients as a service for evacuation or emergency usages. Now, just to give you a little background, at the 53rd raising day of the Central Industrial Security Force, and I'm starting from CISF. It's not that, actually, I must mention CISF because CISF forms the core of providing security to vital installations in the company mandated by the government. But they can't do everything. That's why I start my talk by CISF. And CISF is something that we need to work with. They are the experts. We need to be trained by them, regulated, certified. Now, at the 53rd raising day of Central Industrial Security Force, the Honorable Home Minister of India, Mr. Amit Shah, he said, the need of the hour is that CISF needs to join hands with the private security agency and work together. That is the need of the hour. The Director General of Central Industrial Security Force also said at the same event that CISF was ready to work as an integrator to train and certify people from private security industry, make them fit to work in places which are today non-core but being serviced by the CISF. So what you see is there is the government which has an intent, there is an organization which does it, which has not just an intent, but it's keen to impart that knowledge with us and share it. By the way, just a little offside, a little trivia, more than 1.6 lakh CISF personnel today work at 65 airports in this country. I'm just giving you the magnitude of just one. I'm just talking of airports so far, not talking of other installations. So I'm going to contour my talk around a bit of government, global context, a bit of what is happening currently, and a bit of what needs to be done. So I'm trying to put it in that model. Just to give you an idea of what happens globally. In the United Kingdoms and Europe, private security company is used for guarding ports, airports, prisons, prisoner transfers, and many other duties. The same happens in United States, and a little more because they also give away a lot of their government installations to be guarded by the private security company. Australia does all of this, but a little more because they also outsource their traffic management to private security companies. In Canada, the largest employer of private security agencies is the Canadian Pacific Railway and the National Railways of Canada. Largest employer. Now, I'm just giving you this perspective because think about it. Think about our railways and the opportunity therein. In the Gulf, it's much more wide-ranging. They provide private security officers to dignitaries, to government officers. They do executive protection, escort duties, fixed site, radio communications. One country which I find very interesting, although it's very small, it's hardly a country, it's more like a city, is Singapore. But it's a very good incubation center. It's like an aquarium. You can make it absolutely perfect. So they have tested this. So very much like us. They used to have something called the auxiliary police force. Let's equate it with Central Industrial Security Force. This auxiliary police force was a cost to the government, and it was only used in cases of emergency or for guarding vital installations like CISF. The Singapore government decided they did not want it as a cost center. They wanted to change the perspective and make it a profit center. So they set up a private security company funded by the sovereign wealth fund of Singapore, and they call it Certis. Now, Certis is a very interesting company. Their logo also says Certis, and at the bottom it says auxiliary police. Very interesting. It's a private security company. It today, and it's about 30 years old nearly. Today, its turnover is over $2 billion. 2 billion. Very, very interesting. In a small country like that, here is a company which has 2 billion, and it obviously makes a very, very serious profit on that, which it shares with its shareholders and sovereign wealth fund and whatever. If you ever land in Singapore at the airport, you will not find one government protection person, whether it's from the police or army or paramilitary, nothing. It's just Certis everywhere. They make money on it. They honed their skills at this airport to the extent that they started offering this service. And today in Australia, they secure maximum number of airports because they were so good here. And believe you me, this is completely technology driven. So Certis is a phenomenal technology company. In fact, we've learned a lot from that. All these examples that I gave you of various countries are learning examples. We learn from them, and we can obviously use best practices. And we can say that if it can be done, that's already been done for years, it can be done with us also. There are much more new things happening beyond what I just told you. So private security industry is now being used for much, much, much more critical roles, interesting roles which are very different from what we are normally used to. And they're extending their arm, let's find out new means. Netherlands, very interesting. All these Scandinavian countries, their large part of the economy is fishery. And they have fishing quotas for each country. In Netherlands, the fishing quota is monitored and imposed by a private security company. Very interesting. Now think of our own coastline. I'm just giving you the parallels and telling you what we can do with it. In Australia, the Coast Guard is now being privatized, and the private security company is coming in now to guard all do the duties of the Coast Guard. In Germany and France, nuclear plants have been handed over to private security companies, which is very, very critical. And most interestingly, in a lot of European countries, the military compounds are being secured by private security companies. Now you would say, military compound, they're not guarding it themselves, they got a private security company, because they then let the military focus on its training, preparation, rather than guarding its own compound. So these are some of the very, very interesting things that are now happening, which I'm sure we can do. But it's not like nothing is happening with us. We are also doing a fair bit of work, especially in the last, I would say, about 5 odd years. Now, CISF, the Central Industrial Security Force, and I keep coming back to it, was mandated, it was set up by an act in 1968. The mandate was to secure installation of national importance, whether it was monuments, nuclear stations, critical industry, dams, airports, ports, power plants. That is why it was set up, to secure these installations, monuments, places of national importance. But then we as a country are growing at a phenomenal pace. Is it possible for one force to be able to do justice to all these opportunities? I don't think so. In 2009, the mandate of CISF was changed after the Mumbai attacks, because they realized that private companies, private installations, private organizations may also need the expertise of a force like CISF. So today we have, I think, 8 clients who use over 1,200 personnel from the CISF to guard their installations. Tata's, Infosys, Mundra, Reliance, and very interestingly, Patanjali. Now, what does it do to the CISF? It adds to their commitment. It is, they have to constantly grow. What happens, you all notice what happened at various airports in India recently. They were jam-packed. They could not clear all the security rush because there's only so much of manpower they can put on the ground. They have to train people, they have to put them on the ground, they have to get them working, and all this takes time. Not to forget that CISF is more expensive than private security companies. It always will be. It's a government body. And then you have to look after that person who works for CISF for the rest of his normal life. That is something that the government is trying to do away with. Why did the government come up with the Agniveer scheme? So that 90% of our defense budget, which is today being spent on pensions and salaries, can be reduced, and the same can be spent on modernizing and getting better equipment. CISF needs to do the same thing. How much can they grow and how much money can the government spend on CISF? When the private sector uses CISF, it is more expensive than private security companies. So again, there is a problem. And another very interesting thing, which I'm sure you will all agree with, CISF is government. And in security, the need of technology is growing every day. You just saw it of what we are doing. And this was just a tip of the iceberg. Very, very lame. And this much even I understand. But I'm sure there's much, much, much more. For CISF to adapt any technology, you have to go through a government process. Bidding, L1. And L1 is a very, very dangerous thing, especially when it comes to security. I was told when I was a youngster by somebody that the equipment in the army that you're using has been produced by the guy who was L1. So that is how much faith you can have on your equipment. So for technology, L1 is actually not a very good thing. Why? Process takes time. Technology evolves very quickly. By the time the government process gets over to get one software, that software is already redundant. You have to get the next one. So, can CISF really do justice to it? I have my doubts. Because time is important, technology is constantly evolving. And on technology, I'm not going to touch upon it. You saw a little bit of what we do. There is a separate panel discussion, I believe, in the day. I'm sure they'll talk to you more about technology, but it is huge. Remote monitoring, remote sensing, drones, facial and iris identification recognition, software-based tracking, geolocking, locating, many, many things. Actually, it's very interesting. The battle between, we have a very, very respected criminologist available with us here. The battle between the criminal and the law enforcement is a constant one. Sometimes the criminal has the upper hand, sometimes the law enforcement has the upper hand. I come from the army, from the Armored Corps, we tank people. In fact, I've got 3 of my very senior officers here who are all from the Armored Corps, and I'm sure there are many more here. The battle between the round that hits the tank and the tank's capability has been a constant one. Sometimes the tank's armor protection becomes better, and sometimes the shell becomes better, it's able to penetrate. The same is the case with crime. So you have to be constantly evolving and constantly be one step ahead of the criminal if you need to defeat him. So what has been done in our country so far? To the last information that I have, we have nearly 2,000 private security personnel today replacing CISF at various airports, which is a big step. And this happened in the last maybe 1 year, 1.5 years. It's a very big step. But think about it, against the 1.6 lakh people deployed from CISF, this is only 2,000. So there's a huge opportunity and a way to go. And what does how does this work? To my understanding, you can't expect a private security company to now be completely responsible for an airport overnight. But there is a lot of non-core functions of Central Industrial Security Force at airports, which the private security companies can do. And the biggest example is the main gate at any airport in India. I'm sure you all traveled. When you reach the gate, you have to show your ticket and your identification. And then the guy says you may enter the terminal building. This is not a security job, by the way. This is not security. Because when you go further inside the airport, you will go through a personal security check and your bags will be checked and you will be frisked probably. That is security. This is not security. Why? This is just crowd management. If we did not stop people at the gate, the airports will get flooded by relatives and friends and family, all of whom have come to say bye-bye. And the taxi drivers who, instead of standing outside now, will go inside to catch hold of the passengers and bring them out for their taxis. So basically what's happening at the gate is just crowd control. Do we need a highly trained, efficient force like CISF to do that? I don't think so. They are needed at the point where the personal security checks are going on. But therein also I have a very serious issue. When you and I go to the person where you get frisked and checked and your bags are open, you take off your belt and sometimes your shoes and your laptop and your bags will be open. By the way, let me tell you, I've traveled globally. I think I've done about 60 countries so far. The CISF personal security check is one of the finest in the world. Undoubtedly. I used to be a smoker. I've taken my matchbox through 40 airports across the world, but never in India. Of course, Ankur does it, one of my colleagues. He takes his matchbox. Now, that is fantastic. But what happens to my check-in baggage? Because my, the carry-on bag is what, 10, 12 kgs, my laptop bag or maybe one little overnighter. But what is happening to my bags that are checked in? What is happening to my bags that are checked in is, they are checked by the airport, not by CISF. Am I delaying the time? Thank you. I thought you were trying to send me a signal. Now this guy, these bags are, your checked-in bags are checked by the airlines. Now, sometimes we find these guys in khaki uniforms, but don't get carried away. They are all old Air India employees wearing khaki uniforms and we mistake them for police or whatever. They are not police. CISF does not check your checked-in baggage. It does get X-rayed, but not by CISF. Every airline, private airlines, have to hire youngsters who go through a capsule course and then they are given a certificate by Bureau of Civil Aviation Security to do that check. That guy gets 25,000-30,000 bucks to do that check. How experienced is that guy and how efficient is he and how much will he be susceptible to being bribed in case of a crime when he's just getting 25, 30 or 35,000 rupees? Therein lies the opportunity. Now, also besides airports, we keep talking about airports and I keep talking about it because we are all seeing it a lot. But there are multiple other opportunities. We are going to have 100 smart cities. The government intends to spend 48,000 crore rupees on these 100 smart cities. I'm sure a fair amount of this 48,000 crore in a smart city will be spent on security, because prevention and prediction of crime is going to be a very, very important part in a smart city. I mean, you are a smart city, damn it, you at least monitor and ensure that your crime comes down. That's an opportunity. Make in India. The current government has really pushed hard on that and it is bearing rich fruits. But that creates a huge industrial base which will need to be secured. Another opportunity. Smart grid infrastructure, which never existed earlier. There were limited small grids. Now you have massive grids which supply power to multiple states, multiple cities. And, power is the backbone of everything that we are doing today. Another opportunity. Bottom line is, the government needs to ensure that it gets the best results for the money it spends. And for that, you need security. What do we need to do? What does the government need to do? I think the government needs to articulate the process very, very transparently. Otherwise, we have, 15,000 security companies in the country. Everybody wants to guard an airport. We have to lay out the ground rules. There has to be a process. It cannot be L1. It has to be more through a technical evaluation and then further. The process of letting a private security come in and work for a government installation, sensitive installation, has to be smooth. The approvals have to be smooth. There has to be a level playing field for organizations. So the government also has a fair bit of work to do to create this opportunity. in conclusion, what I can say is we are taking this first step. So it's a great opportunity. We are doing everything in our power as Peregrine to move forward. And it cannot be a success unless the whole industry comes together. And I'm sure, and I humbly speak for the industry wants to do it. It's not that they don't want to do it. But an environment of trust and mutual respect has to be created. The user can't treat the security agency as a level 3 vendor, and the vendor can't possibly not give adequate returns for the investment that the client is making. In this case, the client is government. Mutual respect and mutual trust. That is something that needs to be built, and it is lacking right now. I see it all the time. So we'll all have to collectively come together and take this little leap of faith. I was reading somewhere, it was written that the bungee jump platform, at the edge, it was written, when you cross that edge, life begins. So actually, you have to get out of your comfort zone and take that step. So in the end, all I need to say is, इस मोड़ पर ना घबराकर थम जाएं आप, जो बात नई है उसे अपनाएं आप, डरते हैं क्यों नई राह पर चलने से, हम आगे आगे चलते हैं, पीछे पीछे आएं आप. Let's do it together. Thank you very much and Jai Hind.